Have you ever wondered why some simple customs survive for generations, while others disappear without a trace? Why is it that in many Asian households, ginger, goji berries, and vinegar are still spoken of as if they were little treasures of daily life? And above all, why has such a humble recipe, made with seemingly ordinary ingredients, been associated for so long with energy, wellness, and the slower passing of the years? Today, I want to share with you a traditional preparation I learned through my grandmother's stories. Stay until the end, because the most interesting part isn't just the ingredients, but the correct way to clean, dry, mix, and consume them. Soaking ginger and goji berries in vinegar might seem too simple at first, but sometimes the simplest customs are precisely the ones that spark the most curiosity. My grandmother used to tell me about elderly people in Asia who maintained an admirable vitality, a special calmness, and a daily routine full of small, natural habits. Among those stories, there was one preparation that came up time and time again: fresh ginger, goji berries, and vinegar. It wasn't a complicated recipe or a mysterious remedy reserved for a select few. It was something domestic, everyday, almost silent. But behind that simplicity, there was a question that always lingered in my mind. Why these ingredients together? What makes ginger so highly valued? Why do goji berries appear in so many traditional drinks, soups, and recipes? And why is vinegar used to preserve and transform their flavor? Before we begin, I sincerely wish you health, wellness, and peace in your life. And now let's go step by step, because if this preparation is done incorrectly, the result changes completely. It's not enough to just put everything in a jar. First, you have to understand the ingredients, clean them well, and respect every detail of the process. Goji berries, also known as wolf berries, hold a special place in many Asian cuisines. Perhaps they aren't as common in your country, or maybe you've seen them once in a health food store, small, red, and wrinkled, without imagining why so many people value them. In China, however, they are neither a strange ingredient nor a recent trend. They are part of a daily routine that many people associate with body care, energy, and slower aging. It is very common to see someone carrying a thermos with warm water and a small handful of goji berries floating inside. The drink is sipped throughout the day, little by little, as a gentle support for those who spend many hours in front of screens or experience eye fatigue. It isn't presented as a quick or miraculous fix, but rather as a consistent habit, repeated with patience. Just like so many traditional practices passed down from one generation to the next. But their use doesn't end in a cup of hot water. Goji berries also appear in nutritious soups, chicken broths, and herbal preparations. When added, they provide a very delicate natural sweetness, and at the same time, are considered a simple way to boost overall wellness. In Chinese tradition, many people believe they help nourish the liver and kidneys, two organs associated with vitality, endurance, and internal balance. That's why, when my grandmother spoke of these berries, she never treated them as a mere red garnish in a recipe. To her, they represented a daily health custom, something small yet constant, capable of supporting the body as the years go by. And here an important question arises. If such a simple ingredient has remained in the daily lives of so many people for so long, is it just tradition, or is there something more that deserves our attention? That is why it's worth observing it calmly, before judging it as just an unimportant dried berry on our everyday family table. Since these berries are dried, their wrinkled appearance isn't just a visual characteristic. Those tiny cracks and folds can harbor dust, fine dirt, and impurities accumulated during drying, transportation, and storage. Sometimes there might even be something hidden in those crevices that we can't see with the naked eye. That's why, before even thinking about soaking them in vinegar, my grandmother always insisted on one thing. First, they must be washed thoroughly. The method I use is very simple. I place the goji berries in a bowl of water and add a small amount of flour. It might seem strange at first, but the flour acts as if it attracts the dirt stuck to the surface. By rubbing them gently, this mixture helps loosen whatever is trapped between the wrinkles. There's no need to do it forcefully. Just moving them slowly, letting the water and flour do their job, is enough. The most surprising part happens almost immediately. After just a few seconds, the water starts to change color. When you see that cloudy tone, you understand why it's not a good idea to toss them directly into a drink, a soup, or a jar of vinegar. How many times do we use dried ingredients thinking they are clean just because they come in a bag? That image of the dark water answers better than any explanation. After that initial wash, I rinse them 2 or 3 times with clean water. This step gives me more peace of mind because I know the berries are much better prepared for eating or preserving. But since we are going to soak them in vinegar for this recipe, there is an even more important detail. They must be completely dry. If any water remains on the berries, the vinegar gets diluted, the flavor loses its strength, and the preparation can spoil or even develop mold. That's why I let them drain patiently, and if they are still damp, I use paper towels to dry them better. There's no need to rush here because a small oversight can ruin the entire jar. Cleanliness in this recipe is the first secret to a safe and pleasant result. Now I prepare the ginger. At the market, I found some very fresh, firm, and aromatic roots, which is why I bought them right away. At first glance, ginger usually looks clean, especially when it comes from the supermarket. But if you look closely, you'll see that dirt can still remain between its curves, knots, and small crevices. That dirt hides exactly where water has the hardest time reaching, which is why it shouldn't be washed haphazardly. The first thing I do is cut the roots into smaller pieces. This way, I can better open up those irregular areas and inspect each part carefully. I'm not trying to make it look perfect on the outside, but rather ensuring that nothing unpleasant is left in the corners. Then I wash it carefully, scrubbing the surface and paying attention to the joints, because that's where more residue tends to accumulate. I also check for dark spots or soft parts. If I find any area that looks damaged or moldy, I cut it off completely. In a preparation that will sit in a jar for days, I don't want to leave anything that could affect the flavor, smell, or safety of the result. It's a small step, but it makes a big difference. As for the ginger skin, I usually don't remove it. My grandmother used to say that it also contains valuable properties, so I prefer to keep it when the ginger is fresh and well washed. Instead of peeling it, I leave it as is and prepare it for soaking. When the goji berries are dry and the ginger is clean, all that's missing is a jar. It must be very clean, sterilized with hot water, and completely dry. This detail is essential. If the jar retains any moisture, it can spoil the mixture. That's why I check it before using it. In this recipe, each step seems simple, but together they build the foundation for a cleaner, safer preparation with a better natural flavor. And as I do this, I wonder how many traditional recipes fail not because of the ingredients, but because of neglecting these invisible details from the very everyday beginning. When the ginger is clean, the goji berries are dry, and the jar is ready, it's time to bring it all together. I first place a layer of ginger at the bottom, then add the goji berries, and continue alternating until the container is full without pressing it down too much. The idea isn't to compact the ingredients, but to leave space so the vinegar can surround them and gradually penetrate each piece. For the first jar, I use balsamic vinegar. I like it because it has a deep, slightly sweet, and aromatic flavor. Upon touching the ginger and berries, it begins to transform the mixture into something richer and more complex. It's not just acidity, there's also a warm note that pairs very well with the natural spiciness of the ginger and the subtle sweetness of the goji. Since I have enough, I prepare a second jar with another type of vinegar, a darker one, similar to the black vinegar that many people use in traditional recipes. This one changes the color of the ingredients more, but it also provides a different flavor. And here an interesting question arises. Can the same recipe change so much just by choosing a different vinegar? That is exactly why I like to make 2 versions and calmly observe the difference. There is also something many people mention about goji berries, the concern about lectins. In general, it is said that certain processes like soaking, cooking, fermenting, or preserving in vinegar can help reduce them in seeds, legumes, and some plant-based foods. That's why this traditional preparation sparks so much curiosity. I don't see it as a miraculous promise, but rather as an ancient way of treating ingredients with patience. I seal the jars tightly and let them rest. As I look at them, I think about all those recipes passed down from grandmothers to grandchildren, without grand scientific explanations, but with a silent logic. Is it just tradition, or is there something in these small gestures that is still worth preserving? The answer will begin to appear after the resting period, once the ginger, goji, and vinegar have had time to blend. After 2 days of resting, I open the first jar, and the first thing I notice is that the goji berries have changed. They no longer look so dry or wrinkled. They have absorbed some of the vinegar and look fuller, softer, almost as if they had awakened inside the liquid. The aroma is also different. There is a light berry fragrance mixed with the intense scent of ginger, and that combination is warm, tart, and pleasant. The second jar, the one I prepared with darker vinegar, looks different. The ginger and berries have darkened quite a bit, so visually it is not as pretty as the first one, but the taste is not bad. In fact, it has a special depth. However, eating it directly can be too strong because the vinegar leaves a very pronounced tartness in every bite. That is why I prefer to have this preparation as a drink. It is very simple. I put a few slices of ginger and some goji berries in a cup, add a little of the vinegar from the jar, and then pour boiling water over it. With the heat, the flavor mellows out. The acidity drops. The ginger releases its warmth, and the berries provide a slightly sweet background. When the drink is no longer burning hot, I usually sip the liquid slowly and then eat a few slices of ginger and some berries. I do not see it as an immediate cure or an exaggerated promise. I see it as a small traditional habit, a way to add warmth and care to the daily routine. Sometimes we look for complicated solutions and forget that many families preserve simple practices for generations. Perhaps this mixture will not change everything overnight, but it can remind us of something important. Health is also built with consistency. If you have ginger at home, goji berries, and a good vinegar, you can try it and observe how it adapts to your body. And now tell me, did you know about this custom, or is it the first time you're hearing about it? Perhaps that is where the true strength of humble recipes that survive through time begins.